And welcome back to Spooky Intel. My name is Kylie.
And my name is Tawny. Just kidding. Filling in for Tawny here is Cole.
Tawny had to do some adult stuff, unfortunately, tonight. So instead, we have Cole, who is always a pleasure. And then we also have a very, very special guest from the Unethical Podcast. They are number 12 in Canada, you were telling me earlier.
Honestly, by the time this comes out, they could be moving even higher. It's
probably number 5 or something.
Yeah. Some folks I got to associate with Beers and Bullshit. They've been lovely enough to have me on, and I owe them big time. So we've got Tali hanging out with us here over Zoom.
If you see us turning our heads a lot to the side, it's because we get to see her beautiful face on the screen in front of us. We're not trying to not look interested, I guess. So,
but you're just a camera.
If you have never been here before, basically what we do, me and usually Tawny, but today it is Cole. We usually find a spooky story. It doesn't have to be true crime. It's basically anything, myths, legends, ghost story, whatever it may be, spooky. And we find a story that interests the both of us, and we tell it to each other that day up. We don't tell anything. Are you making fun of me?
No, I was checking for my phone, and then I just figured I'd finish the rest of the reverse Macarena. So sorry. All right, well, I do things off to the side. Don't let me distract you.
I am a hand talker, so I wasn't sure if you were mocking me or not. Anyway, so basically what we do, it's all genuine reactions. We're not, unfortunately, paid actors to do this. So everything that you see here is real, or hear here if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you're watching on. So today...
But first, I'm going to kick off to the side. Tali, introduce yourselves to our spooky intellectuals here.
Getting ahead of myself.
Well, hello. Nice to meet you, Kylie, and Tawny.
Yes. This is my first time ever meeting Tali, and Cole, you've met her quite a few times now.
I openly tell the rest of the Unethical she's my favorite because she's American.
And Unethical is based in Canada, and Tali, you're from America. You're the only American on that show, right?
Correct. We have 2 Canadians and an Australian, and we're just a bunch of strangers from around the world that met on Facebook and decided to do a podcast together.
It's the greatest thing alive. That is the most podcast-esque origin story to this day ever. It's like have you ever seen that documentary Don't Kill Cats or Don't Fuck with Cats?
Oh
yes.
And that's
so
about
sad, but like it's so good. Like
it is. It is, but
thank you.
But yeah, that's how all those, like, the internet's list, that's how they all met. Like, you got like one from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, you got an Aussie in there. There's always one Australian, I feel like.
Always. You got to shake it up a bit.
Yeah.
I love Australians. I just
Me too.
Say it right now. The accent is perfect, and just
they are the nicest people in the world, for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Dude, one of my good friends.
And I'm from Minnesota, so when I'm talking nice, I know what I'm talking about. I know the expertise.
Oh, exactly.
Oh, we get that. We're from South Dakota, so we're not that far.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So on today's agenda, we are going to be talking about 2 completely different topics. I feel like I've been talking about a lot of child killings lately, so I'm going to stray from that.
For about 20 minutes.
Yeah. So I am going to go a completely different route, and we're going to be talking about myths today for my story. So you have Cole, you've heard of the Jersey Devil, right?
Not only have I heard of them, they're a hockey team, correct?
I don't
Just
know.
kidding. Yes, I have heard of the New Jersey Devil,
so.
But there is the New Jersey Devils have actually been affectionately named because I believe there was a fan vote when they brought the team to New Jersey, and the Devils won out because of the folklore that is behind it. So, fun fact from, well, I guess the sports end of things.
Sponsored by Beers and Bowl.
Naturally.
But anyway, Tali, I asked you earlier, and you said that you haven't heard of the Jersey Devil.
That's correct.
Right.
I have not.
Okay. So I am here to tell you all about it today. What are you doing there, buddy?
You need to be completely oblivious to what I'm doing, all right?
I can't, dude. I'm like a cat. I have to pay attention.
I'm reaching in our off-screen bag of goodies. No, I'm just
dude,
preparing
you think this
myself.
is bad? Like picture what my boyfriend deals with. Okay. So the Jersey Devils. So when I was a kid, I was one of those weirdos that probably undiagnosed ADHD, honestly. But I was one of those weird kids that when I like learned about something, I like fixated on it and like learned about it. And it's been so long.
Coming from diagnosed ADHD, that is 100% sounds like it's in the ballpark. Like, here's me obsessing over true crime. Like, that doesn't sound at all familiar.
Yeah, right. So one of those things I remember, like, it's been so long, so the details are rusty. So I am online looking at some facts to kind of try and remember. But one of those things is I was scrolling through, I think, TV one night when I still had cable. I was like 12 or so, maybe probably younger than that, probably more like 8. And I watched a documentary about the Jersey Devil. My grandparents definitely did not know about this. If you've watched this before, I have talked about several times how I wasn't allowed to watch things a lot because I was very sheltered.
Her grandparents are, let's just say,
very
extremely conservative. But being from Minnesota, you'd probably know a little bit about that in the older generation.
Yep, totally. I feel you. My family wasn't like that, but I was watching the X-Files with my mom when I was like 5. She didn't care.
See, I don't know. The X-Files theme song, like, I actually know somebody who is terrified of the X-Files theme song, and I can relate. It's horrifying. I don't know. I just feel like if I had sleep paralysis and I heard that shit, I would be peeing myself in bed, probably.
So here's where my family was at. I found a movie one time, and I thought it was about, sheep or lambs or something like that. But apparently Silence of the Lambs has nothing to do with fucking lambs at all. Like,
this isn't Lamb Chop.
Yeah, this isn't anything about lamb chops or Mary.
Where is Mary?
Yeah, where is Mary? And what is happening? Oh God, what is happening to her little lamb right now? Yikes.
So
this isn't a Mother Goose tale.
Yeah, this is definitely not a Mother Goose tale, what I'm about to talk about.
More around Grimm Brothers, but yeah.
Probably in that ballpark. So sure. Basically, this was one of the things that I fixated on. I learned about it, and I don't know why. I was a naughty kid. So I hopped on the internet and literally did so much research about this. So basically, it was in the 1700s. It was around the time where, like, it was still, like, I'm pretty sure, like, people were still settling and everything. And it was in, where is this town? New
Pine Barrens.
Highlands.
Or Pine Barrens. I have another one up here. It says Pine Barrens, and it goes off of Jane Leeds.
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Known as Mother Leeds.
Get on that website because that's what I was looking at earlier. And
what was the city called?
It was the Pinelands, I'm pretty sure. Double checking. Oh, okay.
So yeah, here's the Wikipedia. South New Jersey or Philadelphia folklore is a legendary creature said to inhabit the Pine Barrens of South Jersey. So a little bit
just
more...
like the general area of South Jersey, not necessarily in a town. So it was probably before a town was like actually more so like built, like they were just settling or so. And so the legend goes, this woman, her nickname is Mother Leeds.
Jane Leeds.
Her real name is Jane Leeds, but yes, no, you're right. So Jane Leeds, she already has 12 children, and she is pregnant again. And I don't blame this woman. She basically forsakens this child and says something along the lines of this child is the devil.
I believe from what I remember hearing as a child, literally the exact words were curse this devil child or curse this goddamned devil child for the little R-rated version.
Something along the lines of that, because she was just sick of being pregnant. Granted.
Sure. How many kids did she have? I'm sorry, you broke up.
12.
12. Jeez.
12. So yeah,
and
she's
how
her
old?
13th child. And she is, I don't think it ever really says her age. I'm assuming she's got to be like in her 30s.
She's got to be young.
Like, she had to be popping them out every single year. Like, good God. Like, I would be so sick of my husband by that point. Like, stay the fuck away from me, please.
And back then, like, they had babies at like 16, like on purpose.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, exactly. So, like,
even earlier than that.
That's probably why she was probably in her 30s having her 13th child or something, like early 30s or so. So she basically cursed this child. And there's been rumors that she was a sorceress. There's rumors that she just, I don't know, was cursed or something.
I don't know. I mean, not to question the ethics of people of the Northeast, but after Salem, I kind of question their, judging of witches per se. But carry on.
Yeah, no shit. They were just mad at women for making beer and creating money or, getting money from it. And white men didn't like that. So they're like, you're a witch. You are creating concoctions that we are going to take from you and sell ourselves. Witch.
Yeah. 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 No. A white man, dude.
And fuck anybody who agrees with you.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we come with an endorsement of white people. They've been fucking shit up forever.
So, it was in 1735, she was in labor on a stormy night. And I actually remember seeing this in the documentary too. The baby itself was born as a normal child, and then it transformed into a creature with hooves, like horse hooves, a goat's head, bat wings, and a forked tail. And it beat the shit out of everybody in the room with its tail, and then I've read it in different cases. It either flies out the door or the window, or it goes up the chimney.
Yeah, some sort of
but it gets
post-birth
out.
escape.
Is the point, yeah. Wow. So it's a very dramatic leave, and
yeah. So I mean, initial impressions, Tali. What are you thinking off of that? I mean, that is origin story right there.
Yeah, no shit. So yeah, how you said that was an amazing leave. That's an amazing entrance to the world. Like, what a start.
Yeah, right.
What a way to start the whole entire rest of your life.
I read something where it said that she was a sorceress and had the child of the devil.
Sounds like it to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good concoction. Yeah. Random witch, New Jersey, the devil, 3 evil as shit things. So, just bring it all together.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
can you just imagine once again, this is probably not New Jerseyans of the time, but like Jersey Shore, hey, what you doing here? What you doing flying out of the chimney like that? Yo, Joey, get this bastard over here.
I mean, have you seen that episode of South Park? Have you seen that episode of South Park? When Snooki could totally be the Jersey Devil. Episode of South Park.
Snooki is the New Jersey Devil.
Oh, okay. Well, apparently people have actually had sightings of this thing, whatever it is, that people have taken pictures. I could not find it for the life of me, and I continued to look, but apparently somebody took a picture, I think 1930s. His name was, I looked all this up earlier and I closed all my links. I'm like an idiot. It was a farmer that had come out of his house because he heard something going on in his coop. And he shot it and killed it and took pictures of it. And I could not find the pictures on the internet. You would think there would be pictures somewhere, but he took pictures of it, took it to town, and was like, what is this? Can you tell me what this is? Can you tell me what this is? And nobody could identify what it was. Isn't that picture? Look, I saw that picture earlier, and it is.
There's a photo
here. Probably in a museum somewhere. That's what I would assume.
It is. Send that. Can you Facebook that to Tali so she can look at it? Because I can't tell. It's almost on the verge of where it could be hey, this could be real. But at the same time, it's so cheesy that you're it looks like somebody just threw something up in the air and just kind of called it good.
Yeah, I'm sending this to you on Facebook Messenger if my internet wants to hurry up and cooperate with me.
No problem. Today.
So, yeah, here we go. All right.
Just I saw it earlier and I was
this is the first photo that comes up.
I can't tell what that's supposed to be.
Okay. I dig it. It's funny. I don't know if it looks like somebody
a woman took. Well, and I read the background on that story, and it was some woman saw it flying and took a picture of it and was basically the same story as the 1930s, dude. What is this? What is this?
This is pretty much just a horse with a unicorn on it. It's I can pretty much make this with Sophia's costume from yesterday. I'm just letting you know.
I really hope they didn't just chuck a billy goat in the air to get this photo. I'd be upset if that's what happened.
Dude, could you fucking imagine?
Hey, can I borrow your pygmy goat named Pork Steak and chuck it in the air real quick?
Borrow your billy goat named Steve. No, what are you doing with Steve?
So because there are have been sightings, there is an actual family that fits this entire description.
Ew, they have
the
hooves?
mother leads. I don't know about that. And I don't know, because there's a lot of differences here too, but so Mother Leeds has been identified by some as a woman named Deborah Leeds. And she was married to Japhet. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Japhet.
Leeds?
Japhet.
Is that how you say that?
I'm just going to go with...
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. Japhet.
Japhet, is that what you said?
So we have Deborah and Japhet Leeds.
So, and they named 12 children in the will that he wrote, which is compatible with the fact that they had 12 children. And so they also lived in the Leeds Point section, what's in the now Atlantic County in New Jersey, which is in the southern part. And then
so we're in Atlantic City is, I'm guessing.
Yep. So Atlantic.
Yeah, I guess so. Coming from Atlantic County, it looks like so. Yeah, Deborah and Japhet Leeds. They lived in that section. It's an unofficial township, I guess. They call it the Leeds Point area, but it's not incorporated or anything like that.
With anything.
Yeah, it looks like it's a little bit outside of where a current town is, but it has a zip code and everything. So yeah.
Let me guess. It starts with 1.
No, 0 actually.
Oh, no shit.
Yes, the zip code is 08220.
Wow.
Yep.
That's wild.
So if you want to write a letter to the New Jersey Devil, just address it to New Jersey Devil Sewer, Leeds Point, New Jersey 08220.
You know for a fact he lives in the sewer. You don't think he lives in the woods?
That's where one of the rumors is. I don't know, sewer woods. Yeah, you think the postman's going to go find the New Jersey Devil? You think he just has a post box? He comes out and checks it on Tuesdays. He just gets out his key. Nothing to see here.
Maybe I can't imagine that it's exciting where he lives. So why not? Why not spice up his life a little bit?
Oh, listen, it's New Jersey, all right.
Maybe the postman.
And you'll see the fight.
Maybe the postman is kind of like a warlock and has owls send it instead.
I never thought about that.
Fucking muggles.
Like Harry Potter shit.
One-use carrier pigeons.
Because they get eaten by the sewer monster.
Exactly. Yep.
The sewer monster.
Yeah, postage has got to be a bitch because not only do you have to pay for a stamp, you have to pay for pigeons. PETA's making it hell to buy animals out here, so no.
Just catch a bunch and train them.
Yeah. Okay.
We have pigeons here all of a sudden. I don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
They're here.
Yeah. Why do you have 37 pigeons? How would you just stop asking questions and let me run my courier service, please? Thank you.
Tax-free. Taxation is theft.
You need
taxation's theft.
You need something sent? I got you. Opens up your coat. There's just a bunch of pigeons.
Okay, apparently, so there's something here on Benjamin Franklin, though. So
what?
It looks like history theorized that the story of Mother Leeds, rather than being based on a single person, originated from the colonial region.
Huh?
What and actually relates back to a couple of different tales. I don't know. There's something about Benjamin Franklin in here.
Maybe Benjamin Franklin was one of the kids. Oh, wait, no, that wouldn't.
No, because 1735. It's around B. Frank's time.
What?
I'm just looking at a different part about this story here. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, back to the main story. Oh.
It's not Benjamin Franklin, all right? Homie's interesting.
No, I know, but he was...
It's like if Thomas Edison was a pimp.
Remember how we were talking about how, like, Hamilton sucked in a way? Like, yeah, he did good things, but he also was kind of a shitty person.
Every founding father was like that.
That's what I'm saying. So Benjamin Franklin's really not that special to me.
If it's a white dude, he probably had a lot of flaws that we didn't know about. Just saying.
Think I know about a few of them. I'm not going to
magic.
share because it doesn't pertain to this, but the founding fathers were shitty people. I'm going to say that, allegedly. So
they did have a wave of sightings in 1909.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find.
Right
is
here.
Like where these sightings were.
So it looks like during the week of January 16th through January 23rd, newspapers of the time published hundreds of claims encounters with the New Jersey Devil from all over the state. The alleged encounters were claimed that they were attacked in a trolley car up in Hampden Heights, a social club in Camden, New Jersey. Police in Camden and Bristol, Pennsylvania, supposedly fired on the creature, but it didn't have any effect whatsoever. So
Oh my God.
there's identifiable footprints in the snow, multiple reportings of that across South New Jersey, Delaware, and even as far as West Maryland. So it looks like all throughout this like kind of northeastern valley. And there was even a rumor that the Philadelphia Zoo was posting a $10,000 reward for it at the time.
What kind of camera? Like, what kind of cameras existed at this time? Were they the ones that took forever? Like, why didn't nobody have cameras?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Dang it. I don't remember when technology started getting where I don't know, where it's like instant. So, or not even necessarily instant, just like film.
I don't know. Does that sound like something? I feel like Minnesota, something like that could happen. You know, like a smaller town. Like all of a sudden, people start freaking out.
I feel like there is something in Minnesota, probably, because I just feel like all those lakes. It's like by all those lakes and everything. Like, there's got to be something in there.
Yeah. We have gremlins, says my old senile piano teacher when I was a kid.
Wait, what?
We have gremlins. That's all
So this lady just teaching you piano, and all right, this is how the sequence goes. Did you see any gremlins last night?
Yeah. It was pretty crazy.
I want more details. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had been going there for like 2 years at the time, and one day my mom just came to pick me up. And they got to talking like you do in Minnesota. The older generation, all they do is talk. Like, you can't get out of the grocery store in less than an hour ever.
Oh, I know.
It's called a Midwestern goodbye. Yep.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Honestly, but it definitely gets way worse the more like east you go. I feel like I'm from like the Sioux Falls area. Like I lived there for a while. So like I know it's a lot worse over there, I swear.
And the more north you get to, like it was so funny. My brother, he lives on the West Coast and he was visiting this past summer, and we stopped at a gas station, and he's got dreadlocks, you know, so like he's pretty noticeable up here. And we're getting fuel. And so there's like a truck and some older guy, like old guy, grandpa, you know, filling up his truck. And he's talking to my brother, and he said, like, where are you headed? And he's like, oh, just back home. And he's like, oh yeah, back home, don't you know? And my brother's like, yeah, you betcha.
Oh, you know, don't you betcha?
Oh, I was like, I can't believe I just saw that interaction happen with an old farming dude and a West Coast fucking hippie. It was hilarious.
My family is all like that back there. And so when we get back from Minnesota visiting family, my mom, her Minnesotan accent comes out really bad. And so she'll be, you know, talking like this for about the next week or so. It's awesome. I love it.
All of my family talks like that.
My aunt lives in Minnesota, and I'm pretty sure she's picked that up.
The Minnesotan, and then obviously the story we're talking about, the Jersey-esque accent, are two of the most identifiable accents easily.
Yep.
Easily.
Well, and then people say we have an accent.
A smidge, I would say.
And I don't hear, I mean, I guess I hear it every day, but like even when I go somewhere else, I'm like, do I sound different? I don't know. I don't think so. No, I was in Vegas last week and somebody said something to me there.
Every time you say bag, I feel like people get on us. I know, Tali, you're from Minnesota, but you don't have too much of an accent.
Yeah, I worked really hard on that.
Thanks, it's progress.
Yeah. Very slow, painstaking progress, but here I am.
I guess, what are some other stories you've heard of the New Jersey Devil? Because I've heard a bunch of crazy ones. So like there's stories in like the 50s and 60s of people when they first started putting in like train and trolley systems into the city, people getting attacked on like solo trolleys. There's been stories about it even creeping up into New York City as well. Like the Jersey Devil has reached pretty far out there as far as just kind of the legend goes, honestly.
I don't know. I'm gonna I was looking through it earlier, And the encounter with the Jersey Devil thread on Reddit is pretty interesting. Because some people apparently, like, people ask questions too, like, how do you see the Jersey Devil? Like, what's the best way that I could come across them? And I'm like, why the fuck would you want to bring that upon yourself? That's terrifying.
Like, summon it somehow? Light 6 candles?
Like some Ouija board shit. We don't fuck with that shit.
I'd fuck with the Jersey Devil.
Oh, okay.
So is this like a
Ouija boards?
It's not an ethereal spirit or anything like that. Like, it's a tangible creature. Like, even if it's demonic, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah, I die.
Like,
okay, big deal.
I feel like we could put this in a cryptid category for sure. Like Bigfoot and the Mothman.
Yep. I would agree with that. You know, maybe some sort of sorcery involved in creation, but not so much in the actual existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the
kind of
devil put it
funny.
here, and it's like,
It's funny that this story starts on a dark, stormy night. You know, it's like, yep, naturally. That's the way I was born too.
It was 2 p.m. on a Tuesday during a summer afternoon. It was 95 degrees outside, and then the New Jersey Devil just flew out of fucking nowhere.
And all of a sudden it started storming. It was perfectly fine before then. Then we had a tsunami in the...
And there was a middle of a tsunami in Kansas. Doesn't ever happen. And then that's how the devil child was born.
So this was like as recent as 7 years ago. Somebody was saying on here that they woke up about 10 o'clock at night and they were basically kind of drifting in and out of sleep when they heard like horse hooves outside their window. And then they were like, oh, it's the horses from the farm. Like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's normal. But then and it clicked. It's like, the horses are like 3 miles away on the farm. They're nowhere near close to the house. So instantly, like, fear just overcomes this person. And they looked outside, and from what they saw, there was a large creature standing on their deck, and it had bat-like wings and a pronounced snout and 2 horns and smaller claws on its upper body with horse-like lower legs. And then it looked at the person for a sec and then flew away. And then they didn't sleep at all that night.
Can't imagine.
Was this before or after the photo I saw?
This was like, what was that photo? I think it was like 2002 or something. And this was 7 years ago. So this is probably more recent.
Okay. Because I was going to say, he explained like the exact photo.
Yeah.
If you ask me. I could stick wings on my cat. Can you see my cat back here? I could stick wings on her and kiss her in the air and
I've
get the
been
same
admiring
picture.
your cat for a little bit.
Yeah?
I keep seeing your cat like getting up, moving around. I'm like, oh, that makes my heart so happy.
Good.
My cat's colored like yours, kind of. So
tortoiseshell.
She just has more black. Yep. Does yours
the
have a lot of
tortitude
fortitude?
is real. Yep. Jinx.
Dude, so I was gone for a full week. I went to Las Vegas for a week, and she has been so nice to me since I've come back. She follows me everywhere. Like, this is the nicest she has ever been to me in my entire life. So I'm like, what happened to you? Who are you?
She thought you're never coming back.
I love her.
How old is she?
No, but it's real. I found her when she was just a couple weeks old. She was abandoned by herself. She's pretty small, so I'm assuming she was the runt. God, I think it was like 2015. So that would be like 7 years ago or so. So she's 7.
That is so awesome. Like, I found my cat in a dumpster and I thought it was a baby crying, but she was like maybe 4 months old. No, she was smaller than that. She was probably like 3 months, 4 months, somewhere around there. So she was a little bit older, but I'm sure she jumped in there herself. But I thought it was a baby crying. So I was like, someone give me a boost. I got to go get this baby out of here.
I mean, it was a baby crying.
Yeah, technically, but I'm like looking for flesh, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I have my flashlight and then there's these eyes and I'm like, oh, it's a cat. It's a cat.
Yeah, no,
I'm keeping it.
We were this is gonna sound so bad. We were like young and dumb and we would like go explore abandoned houses, just like driving around back roads and shit.
Yeah, that's a young people thing.
Yeah.
Do you do it now or something?
No, of course not. Why would I say anything about that? Anyways, your cat story.
Anyway,
We'll talk about this off camera, but you're calling me dumb.
So I just remember my cat or my friend saying, "Oh my God, that there's a cat." And I was like, "Oh shit." Like I imagined like a full grown cat with like rabies or something. And yeah, no, I mean, I'd still risk it probably. But at the same time, I was like, we're in a house that has like holes in the floor. We should probably get out if it's like in here and it has rabies and we can't get away from it or something. And then he goes, "Oh my God, it's so tiny." And I like turned and I was
That's
like,
what she said.
Thanks. Thank you. I turned around and it literally, she fit in the palm of my hand. She was so small. I took her to the vet the next day after I'd pulled off like 2 or 3 like ticks that were like that big. It was bad when I found her, but I got her checked out and they said she was fine and that she was probably had just opened her eyes. So
damn, that's crazy.
She was so cute. Yeah, I like made her a weird food for a little bit because she was so small and couldn't eat regular, but she was past the point of just being like liquid fed. So I was just kind of mashing shit up for her.
Yeah.
And she was just, she was such an angel when she was little and now she's such a grump. Sometimes I wish I could go back, but I love her anyway. So, but yeah, she was so tiny, ridiculously tiny.
I've had her for 10 years. It goes by very fast.
I have a dog.
Oh yeah, Cole has a husky.
I got a Ghost from my dad because he had him. I can't remember where they got it from, but yeah, essentially just got to the point. My brother was just 16-year-old kid. Yeah. So I was like, well, we have a husky here, so we'll give him a brother and someone to fight with all the time, apparently. So this was a very well thought out plan on my end as Tristan's looking at me right now. So, but I love him. And his name was originally Cosmo, but I renamed him Ghost because he is an all white husky and he looks just like Ghost from Game of Thrones.
He's cute.
Oh,
got a lot of tude.
Oh, he's got tude, but he's a husky. He's
got that natural. See, as a kid, I was like, I love huskies. I'm gonna have one when I'm an adult, and now I'm like, they're cute.
Not unless you like running.
No, thank you though.
If you like sprinting, get a husky.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm gonna get a lazy dog. I really want a Great Dane.
Yeah.
I have 2 lazy dogs that I got from our Humane Society here in town, and they're both awesome. One of them's like a Dober Lab. He's giant, all black. Heart. Yeah, and then the other one's like a border Sheltie, so kind of like
I love Shelties.
Those dogs off of the movie Babe. Yeah. Yep.
That's so cute.
I call her name's Valerie, but I call her Fly for a nickname because I'm like, she reminds me of Fly, and she's fast. She's so fast. She's very fast. She don't even know how fast she is.
She's so fast. She makes fast dogs look not fast.
I want a dog so bad. Okay. All right, we should probably move on.
Okay.
Because we don't want to get too sidetracked. Okay, so that was my story, basically. There wasn't much to it. Jersey Devil was it's apparently a legend, but at the same time, there's been numerous spottings by the people there, like over the years. Like there was a wave of spottings at one point. There's farmers that have lost their their
livestock and crop and everything. Yeah, like carried away like pigs. And there was even one story I think I came across one time that like an entire cow was carried away by the New Jersey Devil. Like it's like some Jeepers Creepers shit,
or some Skinwalker Ranch type shit.
Yeah,
ever heard of that? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I've heard of it, but I haven't really looked at it a whole lot yet. So
it's creepy.
That was something I kind of wanted to talk about. Yeah, because I've heard it's super spooky.
I was about to say you guys did something on that, didn't you?
We did Roswell.
Roswell, gotcha.
Okay.
So,
yeah, no, that shit's wild. I kind of wanted to bring up Wendigos instead of this earlier, but I feel like Tawny should be here since she's the indigenous one out of all of
Wendigos and indigenous. Indigenous. Indigenous.
I don't know words are hard.
I don't know words.
I don't. I've been pronouncing it. Okay, this is the thing though. I've been pronouncing these words wrong my whole life, and nobody's ever corrected me. So
don't worry.
Who's the dick here?
Me.
Yeah,
that's fine. I'm a dickhead with an educational purpose.
But at least you like told me, so now I don't have to ever say that wrong ever again. But besides the point, I strayed away from that because I feel like she would like to be here for something like that.
To make you feel better, though, you should never make fun of someone for mispronouncing something because that means they learn the word by reading it, not by just being told it.
Listen, trial and error. I wasn't making fun of you. I was just. Plus, we're on podcast. If I don't make fun of me then. All right. Listen, you're acting real.
I'm not a bully. Like
me. Like, say it. Say it with your chest. Say it with your chest.
You started to say something. All right, let's move on.
Speaking of bullies and terrible people, I'm going to go ahead and take the driver's seat here on this one, as we're going to talk about a couple of rat bastards and evil human beings. We're going to switch from creepy to horror and spooky to the downright absurd, as we're going to talk about the Toolbox Killers. To start off here, recently there was a documentary on the Peacock Network. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's more of a feature film. There's been a lot of docu-series on serial killers here recently. So this one's more about a 2-hour film, and it just kind of covers more of an aspect of Lawrence Bittaker. But I guess before I kind of kick into the story, Tali, what do you know about the Toolbox Killers?
Apparently nothing, because I have short-term memory loss and I can't remember shit. But good. Lawrence Whitaker sounds familiar for some reason.
Yep. So we have, I guess, and then to you, Kylie. I mean, how deep have you dove in? Because we talked about it the other night on the documentary.
Yeah.
Did you watch that yet?
Not yet. No, I've been watching.
I think it was literally like yesterday or 2 days ago.
I've been distracted. So.
I've also been watching The Office.
Yeah, a lot of The Office lately. So, no, I know a little bit about this story. I didn't really dive into it that much, and I also have a really. That's probably why I did so bad on telling that last story, is because I have the worst memory. I smoke too much.
You're sitting here with like it's a catch-22. You're like, I smoke to get unnervous, but then when I smoke, I lose my memory. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So I take rigorous notes, but also Wikipedia is a savior. So looking off at the general consensus Wikipedia page here, the Toolbox Killers were Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris. So they were a couple of killers from California, and they were in kind of like the Los Angeles Valley area. They did a lot of their dumping like out in the hills. So essentially, the documentary that they talk about on the Peacock channel, and where I'm going to kind of give this, is there was really a leader and follower kind of concept with this. You had Lawrence Bittaker, who's definitely the psychopath and kind of the intellectual side of the tandem. And then you had Roy Norris, who's, well, just the big dude, like he's the big muscle. So to start with Bittaker, he was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on September 27th, 1940, and was the unwanted child of a couple that just chose not to have children. So he was placed in an orphanage and then was actually adopted by Mr. and Mrs. George Bittaker, not giving a parental name for the female. But what else is new about the 1940s? As an infant, and so his adoptive father worked in the aviation industry, and, his mom was a housemaker. And when Bittaker kind of talked about in the documentary, is he talked about his childhood was very unloving for the most part. He didn't really want for anything. They weren't, poor, but his parents were very unloving. They didn't say, I love you. They didn't embrace him, give him a lot of affection. Like he kept repeating the phrase, like, if I had a different set of parents, or, I had one loving parent, maybe I wouldn't have turned out like this. Mm-hmm. Common theme.
Gotta love yourself, people. Gotta find the love within yourself.
Exactly. No one's going to do it for you. And apparently this man liked to shift the blame in all the wrong places. Because, definitely check it out. You'll see what I'm talking about as far as the psychopath complex goes. But it looks like his criminal career started young. He was arrested for shoplifting at the age of 12, and then kind of developed a little bit of a minor criminal record over the next 4 years with additional petty theft and, other juvenile offenses. So, nothing really kind of ever hit until he was arrested for hit and run and evading arrest when he was a minor. And then he spent the rest of his time in the California Youth Authority, kind of switching between juvenile prisons until he was 18 years old. And it was during this time that he dropped out of high school, even though he was tested for an IQ of 138. So it's a lot of information to break down there, but
he was probably just bored as hell, at school. So exactly. That's why he dropped out. When you're that smart, there's nothing that it can teach you.
Yeah. It's kind of what I was thinking.
Oh, exactly. When you're kind of that guy who can figure things out, the snap, and, well, you're a psychopath, usually they're pretty smart. And so once again, dropping out of school, he kind of started working odd jobs, more in the criminal area, got himself arrested. And then I believe it'll go down a little bit more here, but that's kind of where we're at 18 with Lawrence Bittaker to start.
All right. He sounds scary.
Yeah. So obviously we have a very typical past for one serial killer, but Mr. Roy Norris was actually born in Greeley, Colorado, not too far from us here and about 5 hours away. Norris as well was conceived out of wedlock, but his parents actually decided to get married to avoid the social stigma. So that sounds like a fantastic upbringing as well.
Wonderful. Yep. Gotta love the forcing of matrimony.
Yeah. Shotgun weddings make for fantastic,
but how many
lovely
kids
households.
go through that too and don't end up being serial killers? Like, come on.
Well, the majority.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
but we're not excusing it. I'm just parallels here.
Yep.
We'll just say neglectful childhoods. But once again, his recollections were about the same thing. Kind of memories of his parents, getting into a lot of fights, being neglected. And he actually did spend a little bit of time in the foster system. It looks like his mom copped a drug addiction early on in his childhood. So a lot of, kind of up and down roller coasteriness in his childhood as he was sent through the foster care system, frequently denied sufficient food or clothing. And this is actually all on record. And then he also did claim before his death to be sexually abused in the care of one of the families who did take care of him. So that is also noted in here as well. As far as Mr. Roy Norris is actually, so they don't give a lot of Roy Norris on the documentary side of things. They just kind of cut straight into where did these guys meet at, which is about the next section of what we're going with.
Sure. Definitely a paralleled upbringing though, between the two.
Yeah.
So that's I got the heebie-jeebies.
Oh yeah. So definitely a parallel. And then it looks like Mr. Norris, before he is 18, his story is not over. So before we catch up with Bittaker here, it looks like while living with his parents at 16, Norris actually visited the home of one of the female relatives. Essentially, he tried to come on to her and perv on her a little bit. She ordered him to leave the house, and then Norris's father just straight up threatened to beat him. So Norris actually stole his father's car, drove into the Rocky Mountains, and then attempted to commit suicide by injecting pure air into an artery into his arm. He was later apprehended as a runaway and returned home.
That is so hardcore. Jesus.
So upon returning home, Norris's parents informed both him and his younger sister that they were both unwanted children. They intended to divorce when both reached adolescence. So yeah, crazy times as Norris a year later dropped out of school, joined the Navy. And then he is stationed off to San Diego in 1965, deployed to Vietnam. And then it looks like he was honorably discharged after one tour of duty in the Navy. So that's where we leave off with Mr. Roy Norris. Holy shit. Hell of an end to his
Navy guy, there. Huh? That's interesting. Seems like they either come back one of two ways,
Extreme. Well, because also, what is it? The Golden State Killer was from California. And then also had spent military time as well. I think he was either in the Navy or the Marines and was stationed down in San Diego. And that's where obviously everything started off with him. And a lot of the training he got was from the military.
And he was a policeman.
Yep.
Like what?
For a good long while.
Yeah.
That's how these are positions. Yeah. I mean, positions of power, they attract usually the opposite ends of the spectrum. They attract the best of people and then literally the worst of people.
Yeah. Yep, you're right.
So, but that's where we left off with Norris. Let's jump back into Mr. Bittaker, the brains of the operation. So it looks like within days of his parole from the California Authority, Bittaker was actually arrested for transporting a stolen vehicle across state lines.
Grand theft.
Yeah, it looks like he was. So he popped another theft charge, spent a little bit more time in prison, but then was actually popped in 1961 for armed robbery.
Woo, this guy's on a roll.
Yep.
A felony roll.
Yeah, felony roll. So he was popped for armed robbery in 1960, given 15 years, but in the ever lovely legal system, he was released in 3 years, or just under 3 years in 1963 after completing just over 2 years of his sentence. In 64, he was in prison again for a parole violation. But then in 66, while he was in prison, two independent psychiatrists actually came in hired from the state to evaluate him, and they actually classified him as borderline psychopathic, highly manipulative individual, unable to acknowledge like the difference between consequences of his actions and just, anyday life. So obviously they're pretty much saying, hey, this guy is a psychopath and he's going to kill somebody. Like it's going to happen here. So they put him on antipsychotic medication, and then a year later they just threw him back off into society.
Oh no. That's not how we do things.
I feel like that is just the usual.
Well, and the rest of this is literally just
too.
It's theft, released from prison. He was sentenced to 5 years in 1970, but in March 71, right back out on the streets again, arrested for burglary, and then he served 6 months of a 15-year sentence. Out of that, and he was back out in the streets in October 1971, committed another crime, and then he was back in prison for 3 years this time. So at least they put him in for 3 years this time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
And then in 74, where we are going to catch up with Mr. Norris later, but in 1974, he was arrested for assault with an attempt to commit murder after he stabbed a young supermarket employee who accused him of stealing. He accused Bittaker trying to steal a steak, and he followed him out in the parking lot. And so he straight up just turned around. He's like, hey, sir, did you forget to pay for this steak? And Lawrence Bittaker turned around and just stabbed him. Didn't say anything else, just straight up stabbed him. The employee did survive, but then Bittaker was convicted of a charge of assault with a deadly weapon, not attempted murder, and then was sent to the California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo. Yes, there we go. So that's where we leave off there.
Okay. What a ride.
Oh, yeah. We're on a ride so far.
And then where are you going to talk about next how they came together?
Yep, let's catch Norris up, though. So after getting out of the Navy in 69, Norris was arrested for his first known sexual offense. He was charged with both a rape and an assault with an attempt to commit a rape. So it looks like he forced his way into a car of a lone woman, and then actually 3 months later, he copped another charge by attempting to deceive a lone woman into allowing him into her home. When the woman refused, he attempted to break into their house. The woman phoned the police, who arrested Norris before he'd been given the opportunity to actually cause the woman any harm. So it looks like after the offenses, Norris was diagnosed by military psychologists with a severe schizoid personality, and he was given, so that's when he was actually given his discharge from the Navy officially, was in 1970, after they were like, oh, hey, you're borderline schizophrenic. Bye.
Yeah, I'm surprised they put that as an honorable discharge, because that should have been flagged to even let him in.
So they gave him an administrative, which I believe doesn't carry a lot of the same terms, but it's definitely not a dishonorable. I think it's more from like a clerical standpoint.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
I think you have to do, I don't know necessarily now, but I feel like back then you had to do some you have to kill somebody to be dishonorably discharged.
Yeah, because there's people I've run into in like true crime stories in the past that were convicted of rape and were just honorably discharged.
Yeah.
For that rape.
Okay.
In the military in the 60s and 70s, it was, you had to do some bad shit to get dishonorably discharged. Like publicly shame the military. If you committed murder, but it was like low key enough, then they'd probably just honorably discharge you. Like honestly, maybe not to that extent, but it was extreme. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Dear God, you were caught kissing another man.
Yeah, you're fucked.
You know what? What is it? To the plank with you. Walk the plank. The Navy just have you jump off in international waters. Oh, he died randomly. Weird.
Yeah. Never heard from him again after that.
But yeah, so it looks like he was out on bail for both of these charges after getting kicked out of the military. It looks like then he attacked another female student who was on the San Diego State University campus. He repeatedly struck her in the back of the head with a rock until she slumped over, and then beat her head against the sidewalk as he knelt on her lower back. Shortly after, he was charged with assault of a deadly weapon, and he was committed to a 5-year prison sentence at Atascadero State Mental Hospital, where he was classified as a mentally disordered sex offender.
Jesus.
But luckily enough for Mr. Norris, that only gave him 5 years with 5 years probation afterwards. This is back in 1975. He was out on the street after being declared of no further danger to others, because doctors are always right about that. Within 3 months, Norris approached a 27-year-old woman walking home from a restaurant on Redondo Beach and offered her a ride on his motorcycle. But when she declined, Norris parked the motorcycle, grabbed the woman's scarf, twisting it around her neck before informing that he intended to rape her and dragged her in the nearby bushes. Fearing for her life, the woman unfortunately let the scene commence, and that rape was reported actually to the police. They weren't able to find Mr. Norris until 1 month later. The victim actually observed Norris's motorcycle and noted the license number, ended up giving it to the police, and Norris was arrested for the rape. Holy shit, it took another year for them to actually try and convict him from this. So all of this is going around. He's spending none of this time in prison. But finally, here we go. In 1976, he gets sent to California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo, where he's incarcerated with Mr. Lawrence Bittaker.
Uh-oh.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. So these men became loosely acquainted in 1977, but 1 year after Norris arrived. But after some time together, they ended up growing a little bit closer. They started kind of dealing with the same criminals in motorcycle gangs, dealing contraband drugs, and then the pair eventually just kind of came together to construct jewelry. So such a wholesome operation.
Always about robbing.
Yep.
Always got to steal something.
So apparently, Bittaker saved Norris from being attacked and fellow inmates on at least 2 occasions. So there's going to be the loyalty aspect in the leader-follower dynamic that we've seen in serial killer combos. But yeah, it looks like even together and alone, they started quickly talking about their ideas of, raping and murdering teenage girls. They share their fantasy that evolved into an elaborate plan that they wanted to murder one girl from each teenage year, from 13 all the way up through 19.
What the fuck?
Oh yeah, these guys are fucked. Lawrence Bittaker has been called by multiple people the most psychopathic psychopath and the most insane psychopath out there. And yeah, I watched this with Alyssa because she's huge into serial killer documentaries, and she was just like, holy shit, dude, this guy was, wow.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think I heard that somewhere, that he was just like super smart, but also like fucking crazy. So, I mean, it's proving. So.
Clearly, yeah.
Oh, it's setting up there. Yeah, you have obviously Bittaker, who has your classic psychopath lead up of multiple arrests, multiple, taking from other people, trying to be, overly persuasive and manipulative. And then obviously Norris is just your classic, I guess, bulk, your classic heavy in this kind of situation. So, I mean, that's where the team up kind of comes between these two. Obviously, you have Norris, who I believe, from all the photos, looks like a rather large dude. Like probably I'd estimate in like the mid sixes as far as height, 6'5", 6'6", probably around 3+. So, I mean, he's a big dude. He's not Ed Kemper, but he's big.
Yeah. It's like Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's where the duo is right there. But it looks like when they got released here, they didn't spend too much time in prison together, because it looks like Bittaker got out in October of 1978. And then I know that Norris wasn't too much longer after. They got out within months of each other.
Yeah, it was like
January 79, 3 months.
So they probably had plans to meet up.
Yep. Yeah, no, Bittaker got a job as a machinist.
Well, they had made the plans
in
the jail, so then they vowed to meet up afterwards. Pretty sure.
Well, because Bittaker was actually supposed to get a place set up for both Norris and himself. Norris actually ended up moving to his mom's house right away afterwards. But Bittaker and he were going to live together. But yeah, they ended up going in on the murder van that we will talk about here momentarily. But they ended up just kind of grabbing employment. Norris, once he got released, found employment as an electrician. But yeah, it looks like
good for something.
Yep. But then on an unrelated to the toolbox killer note, it looks like later on in life, he did actually admit that within 1 month of his release, he did rape a woman and then simply abandoned her in the desert. He doesn't know her name or anything about her, but simply took her and just left her in the desert. No one ever knows whatever happened.
What a dick.
Yeah. So after he did this, that's when he reconnected with Bittaker and they started to get their plan together. And the plan started when Bittaker purchased a silver grayish 1977 GMC Vandura in February of 1979, right after they met up.
I'm pretty sure this is where the creeper van came from. How everybody sees the big white van and you're like, ooh, there's kids in there. Or they make those dumb, like that dumb joke or whatever. But it was like, I'm pretty sure this is what it was based on, is these guys, honestly.
That's a big part of the stereotype. They mentioned that in the documentary.
Huh.
So they did or they didn't?
They did.
Okay.
That like a cop kind of quipped, like he's like, this is where the creeper van, this is where all that started.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Big white van.
Yeah.
So after getting this, what they kind of went into, they really put a lot of work into this. So obviously working at the time as both an electrician as a machinist, they actually had some pretty decent jobs. So with putting into this van, they threw a toolbox into there, and they actually completely insulated the van with soundproof flooring, shade carpet on the walls and on the floor. And I mean, made it everything they want to, be for a murder van. I mean, they completely set it up so that once you close the doors, you couldn't even hear anybody scream if you were standing right next to the van. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. Like they showed photos of the orange shade carpet that's there, the soundproof installation that's below that, the insulation that's even below the soundproofing. I mean, they spent money to set up this van, and this was, this was a well laid out plan by them. And I hate saying because this is horrendous to even think of, but I mean, they spent time from February when they bought the van just until June. They picked up 20 different hitchhikers without even committing a single crime on them, just to do a test run.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and they had the money because Whitaker, like as soon as he got out, he got a job as a mechanic, and
he was making like $2,000. Yeah, $1,000 a week in the 70s.
And so
it's just gut wrenching that the only reason he got a job was to create this machine to steal women in, girls at that.
Oh yeah. I mean, girls, like literally 13 and 19.
Like their practice runs were basically just like to figure out how to lure these girls into their van without them like causing too much of like a ruckus or whatever you want to say.
Well, and they drove all over the hills. They tested out different neighborhoods, but they finally, it looks like in about April is kind of when they stated that they found this isolated fire road in the San Gabriel Mountains that became the infamous dumping site for their victims. Looks like they broke open a locked gate with a crowbar, and they replaced the lock with the one that he owned, so they were able to kind of get back and forth. It is absolutely nuts. Like I said, it's fun because in like the deposition and everything that he gives, and actually Bittaker does take the stand in his own trial. He talks about all the time that these weren't premeditated or that, we didn't plan anything. And it was like, this was meticulously planned out down to the exact detail.
Yeah. Pretty hard to argue that.
But anyways, with enough of the gut wrenching precursors, we'll actually get down into everything that kind of happened, because these guys did have several victims. And the first one starts with Lucinda Lynn Schaefer. So it looks like Lucinda Lynn Schaefer was first taken on June 24th, 1979. She was last seen leaving a Presbyterian church on Redondo Beach. And in every sort of, kind of written statement that they have about it, it looks like this is when they had everything set up. They had a cooler filled with beer and soft drinks. They even had weed on there, obviously, to, kind of seduce anybody who was in California in the 70s at the time, kind of living that freer lifestyle off the beach. And you'll start to notice a theme in what they did with the hitchhiking and kind of picking all these girls up case after case after case, because once again, with serial killers, they have an MO and they have a way of going about things.
Yep.
So it looks like at approximately 7:46 p.m., Norris spotted Schaefer walking down the side street and remarked to Bittaker that, they'd want to go ahead and try to take her. So after unsuccessfully getting Schaefer to get into the van with alternative offers of marijuana, a lift home, drinks, they decided to go ahead and drive alongside her and then parked in the driveway. Norris then exited the passenger side of the vehicle, opening up the back door, and he leaned in the van with his head and shoulders obscured from behind the door. When Schaefer passed the van, Norris exchanged a few words with her before dragging her into the van and closing the door. Using a ruse that they would repeat in almost all of their subsequent murders, Bittaker turned on the full volume of the speakers inside the car as the victim's arms and legs were bound and she was gagged with duct tape as Bittaker drove Schaefer to the fire road in the San Gabriel Mountains, where they had previously switched locks back in April. So it looks like from February to June is kind of when they were starting to hit their practice run stage. And then June 24th is when the first action, gets taken. So despite initially screaming when she was abducted, Schaefer quickly regained her composure. As written in the account, that she was rather quiet the entire time, that she didn't shed any tears. But obviously this is also coming from a serial killer who very much tried to minimize his impact and everything. So once again, we only have really their perspective to kind of take from things. And I would take that with a giant mountain of salt.
Sure. Yeah. But it is, I think it might be a little common for victims to like check out, you know?
Oh, no, 100%
those type of
shock
situations. Yeah. So she might have just been out of body at the time.
In shock.
Yeah.
Well, and you hear it a lot from people who had encounters with the Golden State Killer when he was, still in more in the East area rapist attacks. And you hear about all the time how you mentally check out. You mentally check out during that sort of time. And once again, I can't imagine. It's absolutely horrendous because you're dealing with a 16-year-old girl who gets taken by two grown men, and one of them being a really large guy too. So
who's a serial rapist?
Yeah. That had to have been terrifying. I mean, of course it is.
So it looks like after the first account, they did actually argue over what to do after this, because obviously Norris was, had a history of rape and everything, and Bittaker being on the more manipulative side. They kind of decided to discuss on what to do with her before Bittaker eventually made the decision that they were going to kill her because, well, they had already seen her. And Norris was a convicted sex offender already. So if they even just remembered the photo, boom, he's right back in prison. So graphic details coming up as we are going to describe briefly what entailed on the murders. If you guys don't like this, I do want to let you know coming up that there are going to be some graphic details. And so if you would like to tune out, it is not going to take us too long to describe it, but
we always put in a timestamp.
Yeah, we always do want to timestamp these and just let you know that coming up, we are going to have,
trigger warning.
Yeah, a little bit of a trigger warning here. But it looks like that after they got done sexually assaulting the victim here, they went and opened up the doors, and they could see the look in her eyes that was panic, and she ran to the front of the van. So it looks like she started vomiting outside the van, and then Bittaker took the coat wire that he had already undone and then manually strangled Schaefer until she collapsed to the ground and began convulsing. He then twisted the coat hanger wire around her neck with vice grip pliers until her convulsions ceased, and she was denied her last request to pray before Bittaker and Norris eventually strangled her to death. Her body was wrapped in a plastic shower curtain, and then she was thrown over a steep canyon that Bittaker had selected. And according to Norris, after Bittaker had thrown Schaefer over the canyon, Bittaker assured him the animals will eat her up, so there won't be any evidence left. And it was a very heavily shrubbed area. I'll send you a photo of the canyon here, because when you look at it, it takes almost like 160-degree drop. It's very steep. And I believe Lucinda is actually one of the victims that they still have not found to this day, but we'll read a little bit further and find out. But I believe she was actually one of the ones that they still have not found, just because, it's a hard area to search out there.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure animals are out there too.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're talking in the mountains of California. So, But that is the first. They do go into detail on this in the documentary. So trigger warning as well. If things like, the description of the details, are a little bit sensitive, we do want to let you know ahead of time before you dive into any sort of true crime details. But yes, so Schaefer was the first victim of who they had. So Lucinda Lynn Schaefer on June 24th. So after jumping on in here on July 8th, it looks like 2 weeks after the murder of Schaefer, Bittaker and Norris encountered 18-year-old Andrea Joy Hall hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway. It looks like after they slowed, she did accept the ride for hitchhiking, as they were telling her that they were going to go down to Redondo Beach. This time, Norris actually hid in the back of the van to appear that there was only one person inside the van as they tried to get Schaefer together. Bittaker made it look like he was traveling alone. He offered her a cold drink from the cooler end of the car. But then once the van was open, obviously Norris was there, and he drug her in, gagged her with adhesive tape, and then bound her wrists and ankles. They went up to the San Gabriel Mountains where they had taken Schaefer before, and it was in this location. Well, essentially, we can kind of summarize what happened next. The only difference is that they did end up taking pictures of this victim this time. So they did add the picture taking that would become famous in the next couple of cases together on this victim here. So, and a lot of the pictures, if you do see them on the documentary, another warning there is they do have them. They don't show the entire picture, obviously with the victim being, 18 years old, and obviously them being very graphic pictures, but they obviously made her smile in the photos while still being very visibly abused and bound and gagged as well. So this is something that they do kind of add to their murder repertoire as we go along the list of victims here.
Yeah, the pictures are their trophies.
Yeah, they started keeping pictures as trophies, and then they did add one more thing that we will actually get into the next set of victims. But this is pretty much the same MO we're going to get every single time from these killers, is kidnapping by some sort of nefarious means. They drive out to their same spot, along the fire road out there in the San Gabriel Mountains. They spend, an undisclosed amount of time out there, usually between 24 and 72 hours with the victim before they dispose, and they head back into town. So
and
it
her
looks
name
like
was
that
Andrea
was
Joy Hall, you said?
Yep. Andrea Joy Hall.
You know what? That's my middle name and my last name.
Wow. That's wild.
This is crazy. We picked that one there. So
yeah.
Andrea Joy Hall. So it looks like we have, just to recap, we have Lucinda Lynn Schaefer on June 24th, 1979, and July 8th, 1979. We have Andrea Joy Hall, which I do want to preference that one because it's just as important to know the people involved in this case and the victims just as much as the killers, if not even more, I would say personally, because I think we have too many serial killer based documentaries now. Like, I love the thing, but I'm like, all right, maybe ninth Ted Bundy documentary isn't what we need right now. Like, let's spread it out a little.
Expand our horizons. Here.
Well, I like the Amazon one they did where they actually did focus on his girlfriend Liz and the victims a lot more. That's probably one of my favorite ones.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, it's as far as featuring just the victims and people impacted by him more than actually just glorifying Ted Bundy. I think it's the best for that. Honestly, I really do.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, but it looks like after those first two kills, they took a bit of a break here. On September 3rd is when the next victims are going to come up. So they actually ended up picking up two girls at the same time. Jackie Doris Gilliam and Jacqueline Leah Lamp were the ones that they picked up near Hermosa Beach on a bus stop. Lamp and Gilliam had been hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway before Bittaker and Norris observed them resting at the bus stop. They offered each of the girls a ride. They offered marijuana and beer, to which they accepted. And then shortly after entering a van, both the girls realized that Bittaker had kind of steered off the highway and was driving in the direction of the San Gabriel Mountains. When both of the girls protested, they attempt to obviously soothe them, kind of calm their concerns, but it didn't really deceive either girl. Lamp, who was age 13 at the time, attempted to open the sliding door. They were outside of a pair of tennis courts at the time where obviously Bittaker stopped the car at the time. Norris got out of the car, and as she was getting out of the car, Norris ended up coming by and hitting her on the back of the head with a sock that was filled with weights, briefly knocking her unconscious before he obviously overpowered the 15-year-old Jackie Gilliam. He forced both girls back into the car, remarking to the people playing tennis nearby who had kind of seen the skirmish unfold that both of the girls were having a bad LSD trip and that everything was okay. Obviously, nothing ever happened and no cops ever got called. They got the girls back in there, they blinded them and gagged them, and they eventually brought them out to the same location. This case, obviously, this one was a little bit different for a handful of reasons. For the first one this is the longest that they had kept any victim. They held the victims for almost 2 days, both being bound and gagged. And obviously, we don't need to break down how the time was spent, but obviously it wasn't spent very well. Bittaker and Norris in this on top of taking... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tali.
Were they for real drugged, or were they just telling them they were drugged?
No. So they offered them drugs, so they gave them weed, but that was it. They give them weed, and give them weed and beer, but
to kind of lure them in and to be like, oh, we have this for you if you come with us.
Yeah. Depending on who you talk to, Bittaker or Norris, because obviously they're the only accounts. It depends on what they were actually given. Bittaker obviously likes to try to paint himself in a light as clean as possible. Norris is the one who actually testified against Bittaker. And he indicates that, they, make him smoke and make him drink to subdue them more.
Okay.
Which obviously I believe that into things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Yeah, it looks like they kept him out there for 2 days. Obviously, a little bit longer time frame on this one, taking 2 victims. And then the other thing that they did add that they would use on their next and final victim would be the video or audio recordings. So they actually had a tape and cassette player, and they instructed the girls to both record things for them and then did record some of the rapes and acts that were happening at the time during, this trip here. So. And then it looks like the other way that they swayed is instead of strangulation, it looks like Norris ended up actually killing Gilliam with a sledgehammer before Bittaker then strangled Lamp until he believes she died. But when Lamp opened her eyes, Norris then bludgeoned her with a sledgehammer, and then Bittaker strangled her to death. Cause of death on that one, unfortunately, is unknown, because when they did find the remains of these 2 girls, they were just bones, and this was much later on. But unfortunately, the bodies of Gilliam and Lamp, just as the previous 2 girls, were thrown over an embankment down into the ravine. And, obviously they thought that they were completely disposed of, but as we would find out later, that was not the case. But
shows you what a 130 IQ will get you.
Exactly. Who needs to be smart anyways? Hasn't done me any good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm stupid. So whatever. But ladies and gentlemen, it is getting nicer here now, because we are on, the deep stretch here. We are getting to the end of this. I would say nicer, because we're not talking about more murder. We have one more victim to cover, and then we finally get to cover how these fuckers were caught. But we're going to grind through this 5th one here, and then we are going to get to, the best part of the story. So Bittaker and Norris abducted their final victim, 16-year-old Shirley Lynette Ledford, on October 31st, 1979. She was abducted outside of a gas station while hitchhiking home from a Halloween party in the Sunland, Tujunga suburb of Los Angeles. And investigators believe that Ledford accepted the ride home before she had recognized Bittaker, as he was known to have actually frequented a restaurant to which Ledford had a part-time job as a waitress. So he had obviously stalked and kind of pursued her beforehand.
This isn't just a random for him.
This one looks like it was a little bit more close to home. So in this case, it looks like Bittaker then actually traded places with Norris, who was driving the car. Bittaker took the back. Norris offered her marijuana and a ride home. She declined the marijuana, but did decide to take the ride home, to which they then, obviously, the second she got in there, Bittaker, got in there. They bound and gagged her with construction tape, and they drove out to their usual spot. It was during this time that it is important to note that an audio recording, an extremely graphic audio recording, was taken of the entire time that she was spent being assaulted by Bittaker, and especially Lawrence Bittaker. And I just want you to remember that one for later on in the case here. So it looks like after Norris and Bittaker switched places, that you can actually hear Norris and Bittaker on the tape yelling at each other, "Go ahead and scream, I'll make you scream," and shouting instructions to Bittaker from the side. So once again, this is the audio tape that, eventually is going to damn them, because you can hear them on the tape. But unfortunately, just like with the last 2 girls, it looks like there was a combination of both blunt force trauma and strangulation were the cause of death on this one. But to where they get caught, the pair did not actually dump Shirley Lynette Ledford off the edge of the ravine as they had done with the previous 4 victims. They decided, because they were starting to feel cocky, because people were starting to talk about these rapes, but no one had been caught. They had no idea who could possibly be behind these. They had no list of suspects with the police, and they dumped Shirley Lynette Ledford's body just on a random Sunland, California house just early in the morning. And just because it was actually Halloween, the owner of the house, for about the first couple hours a day, actually thought it was a discarded skeleton, or some sort of Halloween prop that was discarded in her yard at first, and actually didn't even call the police until more the later afternoon, when the body was found by a jogger, not the actual homeowner.
That happens a lot, I feel like, in history, where they're like, "Oh, that's such a good Halloween prop," and then it's like,
yeah, never in my life. If we're looking out in our yard and I'm like, there's something there that shouldn't be there, I'm like, Tristan, we're going to check that shit out.
Yep, I will always check it out. Okay, with a stick or something.
Bat. Let's do this. So my girlfriend has a bed by her bedside, or a bat by her bedside. I call him Henry Slugs the third, because stupid football joke. There's a receiver named Henry Ruggs, so I call him Henry Slugs the third. And yeah, and there was like one night I heard a sound outside, and let's just say that if someone comes to her house, that fucking bat's getting used. And so I grabbed the bat and I'm like, I'm gonna go check this shit out. She's like, well, I usually do that. And I'm like, I know, but like, if he's like a bigger weight class, let me handle it. Let me feel like a man before you eventually kick his ass worse than me. Okay. Kylie knows my girlfriend's a shooter, so she'll beat my ass, but
she's pretty cool.
Yeah. But no, like, you want to go outside and you want to investigate shit. You want to check it out, what's going on. But this homeowner apparently not, because a jogger found the body.
Turned it in.
Yep.
Joggers are always either the body or finding the body.
This is why I don't jog.
Yep. If you see me running, you should run too, because something's chasing me.
Yep. Yeah, because there is something going on and you should not stick around to find out. That's why I'm jogging.
I'm doing a brisk walk.
I'll straight up sprint if it's a serial killer. Nope. And I ain't looking behind me either. Like, I'm fast, boy. I'm gone. I'm looking ahead of me. I'm fast, boy. You can just see me Naruto running in the middle of a field. Just
so aerodynamic. Can't catch me.
So did you see? So there was this action figure that apparently had too much dispersion in the backside area of Naruto. Because Naruto be thick as fuck, boy.
Yeah.
And so, Alyssa sent it to me and I was like, well, that explains it. I'm like, that explains why he has to run like that. I'm like, balance.
Yep.
Run forward because he's working with all that back. But sorry, side tangent there. But luckily enough, we're done with the murders because obviously after finding the body in November 1979, Norris became acquainted with a friend from prison named Joseph Jackson, an individual. He cellmated with him for a little bit, but it looked like immediately Norris confided in Jackson right away what he and Bittaker had been doing, including graphic details of Shirley Ledford, the victim who had just been found, and the fact that they were behind that. Right after Norris divulged this to Jackson, I mean, he was appalled because he's like, hey, this is a serial rapist who was appalled by another serial rapist and murderer's actions. So Jackson went straight to the police, and he and the attorney agreed to turn informant into, the Los Angeles Police Department. And that's when they, started really investigating down on both Norris and Bittaker specifically for these crimes. It looks like Norris was at a supermarket one day being tailed by cops. When he went inside, he left a bag of weed just sitting on his passenger seat.
Idiot.
Being that he was on parole, Hermosa detective Paul Bynum decided to snag that one up. And immediately as he brought them in and started questioning on the murders, Norris turned like an omelet and just flipped right on over, giving everything up about Bittaker.
Turned like an omelet. I like that.
Yep. He flipped like an omelet. So it looks like after he was arrested there, that's when they went to his house. And while Norris was confessing, Bittaker actually had mentioned or called over there to catch Norris about their next case. When one of the cops answered, stating that Norris was on the roof fixing his police antenna or antenna for like his cable and everything, Bittaker actually got spooked by that a little bit and decided to clean out the entire van just off of impulse.
Oh,
so
that
cleaned out the
sketch.
Entire van. Yeah. Cleaned out the entire van just off of impulse that's all. Honestly, when I watched the Peacock documentary, it was the same thing. That's all they mentioned is that he just kind of yeeted and was just like, oh, I just had a pulse. So I was like, nope, we're getting rid of everything, and went and buried it, and everything was good to go. So
that points to you might be guilty.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
So, but obviously afterwards they catch Bittaker in his hotel room. There's actually a photo of him pantsless getting arrested from the police department that they showed. Obviously they blocked out the biddies, but yeah, you see him in a white t-shirt in his hotel bathroom getting arrested with only a t-shirt on.
What an idiot.
Justice is served, ladies and
you should
gentlemen.
always be prepared.
Yep.
Always have pants on.
It looks like Norris was already attending. It looks like he got caught for a previous a rape on September 30th that he was being charged with during this time as well. And during this, he actually struck a deal on all of his charges to go ahead and turn against Bittaker.
Oh, no, they're going to let him walk again?
Yeah. No. So Norris did plead guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder in relation to Hall, 2 counts of rape, and 1 count of robbery. And obviously he was sentenced to 45 years to life.
Okay. So that was his deal. That's what he settled on.
Yep.
Gotcha.
He did it to avoid the death penalty. So he was given 45 years to life. He was eligible for parole in 2010, but did die in 2020, having never received parole.
Good.
thankfully.
So he just
Good
died
riddance.
last year.
Yep. Yeah, they bidied months apart from each other because Bittaker actually died in 2019.
Oh,
Yep,
what?
months apart.
That
lot of
is
people call
so
him murder soulmate.
creepy. Yeah,
hate
because they got released around the same time. That's where all this mayhem started. And now they're, oh my gosh. Oh my Lanta.
Yeah. So, but yep. So it looks like after that case was kind of settled and swiped up, they settled that in May of 1980. In April of 1980, that's when they started charging Bittaker. So they charged him with 29 charges of kidnapping, rape, sodomy, and murders, and various criminal conspiracy, possession of a firearm. I mean, they threw everything they possibly could at him.
Yeah, chuck the whole book at him.
Yeah, it looks like when the trial started, Bittaker remained silent, refusing to answer any questions. In response, the judge entered a plea of not guilty on his behalf for the trial that did not start until all the way in next January in 1981.
Jesus. I hate how long it takes for
Obviously, the start
to like start anything.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, 8 months for a murder trial because I mean the star witness was Norris, who was obviously incarcerated, so they had him tracked down. They had Norris obviously step by step chronologically recount for the entire court, both the murders, his role in the murders, the lead up. I mean, literally every single detail. He stated that Lamp and Gilliam were held for almost 2 days. And I mean, yeah, I'm just reading details about this right now. And I mean, he just went into, details about everything. But obviously, if that wasn't damning enough evidence, Bittaker kept getting on the stand to defend himself. Multiple situations, both from the prosecution and from the defense, gets up on the stand. But the most damning evidence of all on Bittaker's trial was a 17-minute section of the audio tape that was recorded during Ledford's abuse and torment. And the audio tape was the only thing to have been found inside of Bittaker's van because he cleared everything out of the van, but forgot to take the tape out of the tape recorder from the last murder.
Oh, so they were like listening to it on their speakers?
They listened to it in court. They remarked that dozens of people walked out of the courtroom and over half the jury started crying in the middle of the tape.
Yeah.
Because
of just how incredibly graphic and evil it was.
And I read, so Norris apparently said something. He said, "We've all heard women scream in horror films. Still, we know that no one is really screaming. Why? Simply because an actress can't produce some sounds that convince us that something vile and heinous is happening. If you ever heard that tape, there's just no possible way that you'd not begin crying and trembling. I doubt you could listen to more than a full 60 seconds of it." And it was just him describing it in 1997, like years after it had happened.
Well, and they even remarked that they would not play this tape on the documentary. They refused to. They didn't even want to give any sort of excerpts. The only excerpt that they do give is Bittaker talking to Norris and Norris talking to Bittaker back, which you can hear audibly in the tape, but obviously, yeah, I mean, it was damning enough to completely shock literally everybody in the courtroom.
And they found the tape in the van's cassette player.
Yep. In the van's cassette player.
So the two creeps were listening to it. Like it was fucking Van Halen or some shit.
Oh.
Like, what the hell?
Here's the coup de grace on everything. When asked about the tape, Bittaker took the stand after the tape had been played. And he said that he paid Ledford $500 to make the tape because that's the kind of kink that he had.
She's like 16 years
so
old.
And that's how she ended up
psychopathic.
Yeah, that's how she ended up off a fucking cliff. Yep. Makes sense.
Yep.
Oh man, I'd love to hear the cross on
yard.
that. Yeah. Oh, I see. I'd love to hear the cross on that. Just being like, and you think nobody saw you.
There was an audible sigh from almost the entire and gasp from the entire courtroom when he said that. It was just like, just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, complete bullshit.
What? Like, how do you?
Okay. Well, yeah. Anyways, that's the toolbox killers here.
Wait. Yeah, whatever happened to him? So he was incarcerated for years on death row, but like I just don't understand how he was on death row for so long and then ended up just dying his own death.
Well, it looks pretty hard. It looks like they eventually just gave him life in prison instead of the death penalty because I guess at the time California was just They were still doing the death penalty, but they
We're starting to be against
they were starting
it.
to be a little bit kind of more against it. So
they flipped it to life, I suppose.
So, well, it looks like originally he was actually set up on death row. He had a planned execution for 1991, but at some point they appealed to get him just to life in prison.
Oh, okay.
Crazy.
So, yeah.
And
But then obviously, yeah,
somehow?
I mean, yeah, Norris just spent his time in prison. He was pretty outspoken against both Bittaker and the crimes, and obviously appeared as repentant as a serial rapist can be. But yeah, and then obviously Bittaker ends up getting cancer, dying in late 2019, and Norris joins him in early 2020.
No, I think Norris was the one that had cancer. Bittaker died due to natural causes.
Oh, in the documentary, Bittaker had cancer.
Oh, what I just read said that. Never mind. Who fucking
might be
knows?
different, yeah. But point
They're
is,
dead.
thank God they're both dead. Yes, thank God
Yeah.
they're both dead. Unfortunately, they died in prison and wasted taxpayer money. But yeah, thank God they're both dead. But that is the Toolbox Killers.
That's
And
intense.
That's
Very
basically
gruesome.
all we got.
Yeah,
So-
good job, guys. Those
But
are good
unfortunately,
stories.
I just got a text message and I need to run real fast. I'm going to finish off here with Kylie. Tally, it was great talking to you, but I got to handle something real fast here. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
thank
it's
you
fine.
so much for having me. It's been a
of
pleasure.
course. Yeah. Do you want to plug your podcast really quick at all?
Sure.
While you have the chance.
Sure. If you guys like what you're hearing here, you may be interested in Unethical Podcast. We talk about true crime. It's pretty much in the title. We say off-colored stuff sometimes. So if you like more of the comedy side to true crime, come hang out with us and we'd be happy to have you. We also take guest hosts. So if you feel like it, hit us up on Facebook at Unethical, the official Unethical podcast group.
I might have to take you up on that sometime. So
You should.
Well,
We'd love to
that's
have
all
you.
we have. Thank you. Yeah, no, I would love to be on your show. I've heard a couple episodes when I have the time, and it's definitely right up my alley. So
Yeah, hit us up.
Well, that is all we have for today. Tune in next Wednesday. This seems to be the ongoing trend. We don't really know what we're going to be talking about next Wednesday. So basically, you'll have to tune in to find out. So thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.
And that's it. We're out.